Good morning, the whistle blow. I hope you're all ready this morning. I feel cold front. I hope somebody got some contact cement because it's time to build something. We in the road. No, we ain't in the road yet, but we getting ready. Good morning, you are in the E-Shack this morning. How you doing, Arlene? How are you?
Good morning to everybody in our wonderful Bahama land and our family of islands. Good morning to everybody.
But Chairman, we ain't getting a bay today. Where you driving to?
Going to the shack, man, but clearly you mixed up, bad boy. Look at your contact don't dry on when it's cold or when it's drafty. that's an automatic recipe to get left.
Man, only day contact don't dry is Christmas Day. I know what you talking about.
All right, I hear you, boss. I hear you, dog.
But we want to say a special good morning to all of our family of islands, our radio listeners, and of course our Facebook viewers and watchers. We have another exciting continuation of the show lined up for you guys. We have an A1, a star-studded show. They decided to join us again because the conversation wasn't finished. But before we go any further, Arlene, would you start us off with our prayer, please?
Absolutely. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, for the gift of life, we give you thanks. For our nation, we pray for peace, prosperity, and principle, recovery, and restoration. And for ourselves, we pray for wisdom to use your gifts wisely, especially the gift of Junkanoo, so that we may honor you, serve your people, build better communities, a better Bahamas, and a better world. Amen.
Amen.
Proud to be Bahamian. What y'all got this morning?
Give it to me straight.
For me, I just woke up and it was another Saturday. I don't even remember the week. I honestly don't remember the week. I don't remember the week.
Time is flying.
To use Arlene's quote, I guess the perpendicular the contuberance.
That's mathematics, or that's what it is?
Boy, that's a ball. Hey, that's a ball of confusion there.
That's big combustion. Big combustion.
Yeah, but
and so, ladies and sorry, go ahead, Darren.
No, go ahead, Arlene. Go ahead.
So I was going to say, ladies and gentlemen, we have another special show for you this morning. We have invited our very special guests from last week back because the conversation was just getting started when it was time for us to sign off. And so you know who they are, but we are going to reintroduce them when we come back from our first break. So please brace yourself. We're talking about what really is a Junkanoo costume, what separates it from costumes for other purposes. Let's define it this morning and let's get the conversation started with three of the most knowledgeable Junkanoos in this area. We'll be right back.
Here are 5 things you can do to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Wash your hands frequently. Cover your mouth and nose with a flexed elbow or tissue when coughing or sneezing. If possible, keep a distance of 6 feet between you and someone who is coughing, sneezing, or has a fever. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. If you have a fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical care. Phone ahead to inform the clinic when you will visit. This message has been brought to you by the Public Hospitals Authority in conjunction with the Ministry of Health, the World Health Organization, the Pan American Health Organization, International Organization for Migration, the UN Migration Agency, and the Disease Surveillance Unit. Did you know abusing alcohol may increase your risk of health problems and damage your heart? The key to safer consumption of alcohol is moderation. Moderate alcohol consumption may 1. Reduce your risk of developing and dying from heart disease, 2. Possibly reduce your risk of ischemic stroke, and possibly reduce your risk of diabetes. However, the evidence about the possible health benefits of alcohol isn't certain, and alcohol may not benefit everyone who drinks. What is certain is that overindulging in alcohol is detrimental to our health. Moderate drinking for healthy adults means consuming no more than 1 drink a day for women of all ages and men older than the age of 65, and no more than 2 drinks a day for men aged 65 and younger. This message has been brought to you by the Public Hospitals Authority.
104.5, yes, they playing hit songs. Hey, Bohemian music. Say what? Here we go. Trying to regatta Burrows. Hey, hey. Said and it's at 104.5. Don't need no money, no. Hey, they playing hit songs all night long. Don't mind fancy clothes. Only God knows he broke busted. I got no money. All right, you're listening to Novi Pierre on a ZNS 104.5. Hey.
The time is now 10:08 in the morning, and we return now to Junkanoo Talks 242.
From the Junkanoo archives on the Junkanoo timeline, the year was 1925. The United States had placed a ban on alcohol from 1919, and by 1925, the rum running era was in full swing. Much liquor was smuggled into the United States from the Bahamas. There was much money to be made, and the Bahamas experienced a period of prosperity under the law until the law was repealed in 1933. The government of the day used the rum running money for many things, including offering prizes for the first time at Junkanoo parades. Another exciting notch on the Junkanoo timeline.
Exciting indeed, the roaring 20s. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Whistleblow. We are lined up and we are ready for this segment of our show. This is the rollover. And as we indicated earlier, this morning we are continuing a wonderful conversation that we had started last week on what the question was, what is a Junkanoo costume? And there were many things that caused that question to be asked. But again, this morning, we are discussing it with 3 outstanding Junkanoo icons who have graced us with their presence. And there ain't too many people. I don't think maybe nobody know more about Junkanoo costuming than they do. What a combination. And so this morning, we welcome back Dr. Emmanuel Francis, we welcome back Cossie Fernander, and we welcome back Doyle Burrows. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Pleasant good morning.
It is wonderful to have you all back, man, because the conversation just got started last week. So here we are to continue it. And so let's jump right in at the beginning, just very, very quickly. For those persons who may not have caught the show last week, very quickly, for those persons who may have been living in the bush for the last 40, 50 years, who don't know who you are, please, starting with Doyle, please just tell us a little bit about yourself to set the stage.
Well, my name is Alexander Doyle Burrows. I am one of the founding members of the world-famous Valley Boys. I've been involved in Junkanoo from 1950 to this present date. I don't participate in the parades anymore, but I'm still a participant with the Valley Boys in banner production. That's me.
And you know, I'll just slip it right in here. You know, one of my most prized possessions in my life is a photograph given to me by Anthony Carroll when he was researching photographs for his book. He came across a photograph of a little girl rushing with Spurgeon Smith. And he eventually gave me a copy of it. And lo and behold, who is the banner boy? Who is one of the banner boys but Alexander Doyle Burrows? So we go back further than I had even realized. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, there goes the picture.
And so,
Can you see this?
Yes, we good. There goes the picture.
let's see it. Oh, let me see if I could see.
You see when this short midget in the front?
That's the picture.
Yeah, that's the picture.
Yeah.
Finds department store, domestic bazaar, and you wouldn't believe it. I don't know what caused me this morning. I was looking. There's some pictures out on my daughter's piano, and there was the picture behind everything else. And I said, "It's amazing." You talking about jumping, and I just walked into the picture this morning.
That's right. And Groot Curtis is right behind me. My goodness, that's a picture for the ages.
Yeah, this was I think that's around 50, 58, 57, 58.
Yeah, I would say so. I put it at 56, 57 based on how short I am. But yeah, anywhere around that time.
Yeah, because it probably was a year or two before the Wally Boys started.
Exactly. Yeah, man, that's a keepsake, and it's always a privilege to have you back. Mr. Fernander, good morning.
Morning, a pleasant good morning, Bahamas. Before I start, I just want to say condolences to Eddie Ford, who buried his mom on Thursday.
Oh, my.
Yeah. And condolences also go out to the Pt2 family, because I stayed in their house one time or the other back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you mean Sir Sidney's family? Yes. Wow. I had no idea Eddie Ford had lost his mother. Our heartfelt condolences, and to the Pt2 family as well.
And his niece, they had a double funeral.
Oh my, no man, stop man. These are very, very difficult times. Very difficult times.
Yeah, my Ford was 97.
Oh, okay. My goodness. Yeah, we are sorry to hear that. Dr. Frank. Oh, Cossie, you didn't say you didn't say anything about you.
My name is Cossie Fernander. I started Junkanoo in the 60s. I got something to ask Manny about that conch shell hat and Big Ben clock and all of those costumes. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes. That
was with the conch shell hat. Did y'all build them out of wire or cardboard?
Cardboard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
You remember the Ferguson?
Say again?
I asked Miss Ferguson if she remembered the conch shell hat.
Oh, yes, I do. What year was that?
1966 Boxing Day. That was my inaugural parade.
Wow. Oh, we talking plenty old story this morning. Oh, yeah. And, as we talk old story, and Doyle would certainly, we would all remember, except for the youngster up there, Mr. Fernander. But, in the 1960s, in the late 60s, early 70s, when you heard Valley Boys, everybody looking to see the big dogs in the front. Gummy, Dougie, and Cossie. They were the three names. I knew Cossie's name before I ever met him. Before I ever met him in one family, I knew Cossie as a Junkanoo legend, carrying a big costume for the Valley Boys. And I could not believe this was the same Cossie who in my mind was a legend, who was now in one family. So we talking plenty old story this morning.
Be careful now. Be careful with them old story now, Arlene, because some of these stories folklore.
Not for public consumption.
Folklore, because you continue.
You remember asking me one time what group I started out with, and you couldn't believe I didn't start with the Saxons.
You talking to Manny?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was incredible.
Amazing.
I from the area,
Exactly, that's what we're saying.
Yeah. And so
we forgave you.
He had good training. He had excellent training. Excellent training.
Who did? Who's we?
Costello.
Who are we?
Valley. No, he was an excellent student of Gus Cooper.
There you go.
Yeah, well, that's
Excellent
good.
student.
There
Gus
you
loved
go.
him, you know.
Well, if we look at history, I remember Waller telling us that he had placed a coat of arms, was it? But I think the Valley boys had taken out, was it the United States?
Yeah.
And he presented it into the bird. That's back, that would have to have been before 65. Doyle, you remember you had a costume with the United States?
Yeah, we had different what do you call them? Crests or
Crest
Yeah,
of the States, right?
yeah, the coat of arms of the states.
yeah, but
Yeah,
different
so-
states, United States, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know how Willa got to place one of those. As you know, we used to wear the what do you call it? You throw over your head and has
The sock.
a
It's
sock.
like a sock.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
But you know, we live right next to Purity Bakery, so we had belly sock.
Yeah, but
Flour.
Flower bike sock. You just-
don't forget,
Gotta hold it
Manny,
in.
Buller spent, I think before Buller even started the rush for the Saxons, Buller spent plenty of time with your uncle right opposite the Birdland.
Exactly. Yes.
Mr. Francis.
Yes.
You know, so he would have known as a little young man, he would have known a lot of us
Yeah.
from the
he did.
valley, because I like you say, Mr. Francis' wife at the time, she loved gardening.
Okay.
And I used to, my aunt from St. Agnes Rectory, Gwenny Cooper, who was married to Milton Cooper, she had a couple of her friends that for my four shilling a week, I had to go to certain people and plant annuals. And Miss Francis is one of them on Montreal. That was a Rundle Street now on
Yes.
Montreal Avenue. I had to go
Wow.
to Miss Tinker on that's Lewis Street. On when you come down the hill from Minky Boston and Lewis
Yeah,
Street. I
that's
remember.
Comfort Street.
Yeah,
Comfort
well,
and Lewis Street.
I had to go on that corner and plant. Then she had another person in Pinedale, Miss Ferguson, Dory Ferguson Horton's mommy. I had to go there also to plant for 4 shilling, you know. I had to go plant everybody had.
That's
how-
Kayla's Adams' grandmother.
Okay, that's what that is. Okay.
Yeah, Dorothy was in St. John's with me, and Kayla, who is married to Devin Adams. That's her daughter. Yeah.
Okay, well, all that was a part of the 4 shilling a week deal. You know?
That was plenty money.
Oh, I know how much money that was that was less than 50 cents. You know,
What you could have do with that in those days.
but you didn't get all of that. You know, out of the 4 shillings, she said she's gonna put a shilling in penny bank for me.
Yeah.
That's a different story. I never saw that, but that's a different story. You know,
Amen.
I never get the one from the penny bank.
Amen. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, it's all downhill already. It's a big reunion. We supposed to still be in our introductions and we getting carried right away. And so, Doc, let's have your introduction, and then Darren Farrington will take it from there, and we'll dive right into the matter at hand.
Yeah, again, thank you for having me on as a guest. I consider it an honor and a privilege. And hopefully that I can be able to share some of the things that I've experienced and learned. And hopefully we can capture these moments for posterity that when our grandchildren, I don't know if they'll be able to start as early as you did, Ali. I mean, I think you say you started around the age of 4.
4 years.
4 years of age. And so our youngest is 4, so there's still a chance that he may do that. As our youngest granddad is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I started in Junkanoo in 1966. As you know, people know me as, they don't know me as Manny Francis, they know me as Willa Brother. So I'm okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. That's fine because it is true, and he invited me to join the group because it was a very young group. It was just established the year before from an amalgamation of, I think, of 3 different groups. You had the Masons Edition gang, you had the East Street gang, and then you had the West Street gang.
Right.
Punch Bowl.
Right.
Yeah, and so that was in 1965. That was an amalgamation of these 3 groups to form the Saxons, based on the inaugural theme that was originally, I think, Sax had the original design, which Wooler had perfected it, and since then, you know, we carried that name Saxons. And the year after, as they tried to build the group, they were looking for young men. They were looking for a few young men. and I was one of the ones that, I was one of the chosen ones. So I was chosen, you know, at the age of 15 in 1966, to let you know how old I am now. And I was in government high school at the time, which, and I was very grateful for the opportunity because, you know, I was able to be very close with Wooler and the design team. And I stuck to them like glue. And I was obsessed with the craft. And Willa would tell you that I caught on faster than anyone he has ever seen in the craft, and much to the point that in a few years later, I was able to be a top designer for the group. So, and then since then, after a number of years, and I look at my fellow Junkanoo Legend Circle inductee, Arlene, I remember that was 2008, Arlene.
An 8, yes.
When we were inducted into the Junkanoo Legend Circle, and I just wanted to say about that, I feel like, you know, we are Junkanoo legends, but I feel that circle needs to widen, to radiate out like a radio wave, to pass on these experiences that we have, and to, like how we're doing today, basically, you know, to let them know from whence we have come, and you know, and where it is that we would like to go, and there's certain things that we would like to see, and I was grateful for the opportunity to join Mr. Arthur Gibson when he formulated a B group in Junkanoo. That was the One Love Soldiers, where One Love had united with Red Land to become One Love Soldiers. And so I was thankful for that, because that caused me to become re-engaged, you know, in Junkanoo, because I really had taken a sort of a hiatus, having gone off to school and coming back and raising a family. And so you don't have the kind of time that you would have had. But I'm thankful for what I would call the opportunity, because with that opportunity, I was able to achieve. And there's so many other people who are perhaps even more talented than I am, or that we are, but haven't had that level of achievement because they didn't have the opportunity. And so I think it is critical. When I was excited about the school Junkanoo, because I saw it as an opportunity, or junior Junkanoo, sorry. I saw it as an opportunity for students, like I was a student myself, to become engaged in the craft and to learn it. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. What you had happen was the Trinidad model with the mass production of costumes and it passed to the children. So the children really didn't have a chance to handle the tools of the craft, the materials, and so on. And so I thought that was a big disadvantage. And then we wanted to, we had a lot of talks about a Junkanoo curriculum. And when we discussed this, you know, it just never really came to fruition. And so I wrote this book called the Manual of Junkanoo Costume Construction. This was published shortly after Jackson passed in 2011. And I really wanted him to be there for that launch, and it's kind of depressing for me. But nevertheless, that was written as a guide to guide Junkanoo group leaders and teachers and craftsmen it's more of a literary resource for the practical component of a Junkanoo curriculum. But we certainly that has stalled, and I don't know if ever we can get that going, but it would be a great thing. But here I am now. I don't know what I'm doing,
But
like, except using my Junkanoo skills to decorate around the house seasonally.
well, Dr. Francis, you speak about the book and the literary resource. That's why we're here today. In conversation, we started to have conversation on and off the air, and we spoke about some things that we noticed. One of the things that we start to notice in the country is that we tend to not define certain things. And what that does is it gives us no structure or no guideline as to what is or what is not. And that's what we're trying to do in this series with what is a Junkanoo costume, or trying to define what are the core components that, makes a Junkanoo costume unique and dynamic to us and what we do in Junkanoo. And if I may, I want us to take us down that road in terms of and Cossie, I want to come directly to you, and why I'm coming directly to you is because you have had a chance to, sit and learn from both of these guys. All right. And I want the input from everybody, but I want to start with Cossie, and I want to say, if we can we start to define, well, what are the core components you would say that makes up or distinguishes a Junkanoo costume? When you see a Junkanoo costume, what would be those core components?
Well, basically you have to start with cardboard. I mean, these days I don't. Most of the groups don't necessarily use cardboard like that. There's so much different materials out there that you can use. But I would say definitely cardboard. Being
that under skeleton, you're saying?
Yes.
Right.
Or that core
Cardboard.
building.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you guys would like to add to that with being one of the core?
Well, your patterns, all the patterns and your drawings years ago, your sketches was done on in your art book, but when you decided, well, how am I going to go about it? You drew it on cardboard, and I think the reason why we drew it on cardboard what was available and cheap. There was no cost. No, at that time there was no cost, and it wasn't like today where you have different textures of cardboard. We basically had furniture cardboard. When I say furniture cardboard, it's the cardboard that we could go to Home Furniture, because you didn't have very many choices, but Home Furniture was the
General hardware.
Yeah. Anybody who brought big boxes, stuff packed in boxes, and cardboard was heavy. Because if you got a fridge box, my boy, that was heavy. Yeah, that was heavy,
You
can make a whole costume.
Your whole costume.
Yeah, because when you call a big costume today, it's not like these things we got now. The floats. I remember people used to some of the lead costumes were assembled in the 3-room and 4-room wooden house. You build it inside and you couldn't get it out.
You have to cut your way out.
No, your maneuvering skills. Well, I know some fellas destroyed buildings trying to get costumes out of buildings.
Raise your hand if you're guilty.
I've never been in that bag where I had to destroy a building. I think about
breakout.
Yeah, not even breakouts. I get you out. I will get you out. And you couldn't damage the costume because it was the same. The parade was the following morning.
Yes.
Okay.
I think when we honored the Undertaker, Philip Kemp, I could remember his wife saying that he used to build his costumes in the front room. And I think one year to get the costume out, he had to take out the picture window. You know, those houses were built with that big glass piece in the front. And of course, you know, the old woman in the shoe, the big clock. We talked about a clock, and you know, he was just phenomenal for his time and the pieces that he produced. And Bella, listen here, he had to get to Bay. I thought that was priceless.
You know, when you think about the costumes of the 50s and the 60s, and like you say, in comparison with today, but some of those guys, they were ahead of their time. You know, like I remember, I was a young man with the mortician, yeah, and like the old woman in the shoe on the clock. It was that simple things, but it was outstanding.
Truly.
At the time you brought them, because like you say, and they didn't put any emphasis. It wasn't much emphasis on big costumes. See, because when we say big costumes, they just like the designers of the individual costumes, we call them, not necessarily big costumes. They were individual costumes. Where one fella took it, 9 times out of 10, one fella built it. He didn't have a big group of fellas around him like those days. But they started. It wasn't with today's standard. They were small.
Yes.
Yes, and they were carried.
Yeah, they carried.
Yes.
And the majority of them, I do believe, they had a base. They were built from the shoulder up. They had like a horizontal base on the shoulder or platform, and then they would go up from there. I remember when Wooler did, even before he joined the Saxons, he built an individual costume called an African drummer. He built that in our bedroom.
and you didn't have no aluminum; you had strips.
Oh my goodness! Yeah. And the thing about the costumes that we have to remember now, that Junkanoo is essentially, Junkanoo has many components to it, but it's essentially it's a marching band. It's a marching band, and then and the costumes is the dress that the band wears.
Okay, so
the main criterion for a Junkanoo costume was that it be fringed.
Stick a pin before we go any further. Labs talking all your business. Labs say I could remember Independence 73. They had to break out the Royal Victoria Hotel to get Manny Francis costume out of the
Lord, Jesus, keep me near the cross.
Okay. Now, okay. Here's what we're gonna do, because I think we're starting to frame this thing up. Predominantly what I'm hearing is predominantly costume. Predominantly cardboard. Also, a costume is to be carried. All right.
Okay. So make a list. These are the lists of ingredients for a true Junkanoo costume. So item number 1 on the list is, what did you say? Cardboard?
Yes, it's predominantly cardboard.
Number 2 is you have to carry it, not roll it. Manny says number 3, it should be fringed. Right?
Yep.
Okay, those are the first 3 components. Okay, fine. Shimon, I'm going to ask Mr. Burrows how he came up with the idea to use contact cement. We can get to that in a little bit, because he has contributed so much to the development of costuming, and contact cement is really only one of the components that he added. So don't worry, we will get to that. So okay, go ahead, DF.
We need to run. We're gonna run to our break, and when we come back, we're gonna pick up off those points, because what I need us to really highlight is and to get into is that last point, is that fringing. All right, and what are you fringing? So we're gonna run to our break. And when we get back, we'll pick up this, part 2 of what is a Junkanoo costume. And folks, the ingredients just getting in the pot. I hope you all listening. We're going to be right back. You're listening to Junkanoo 242.
No, autism spectrum disorder is a serious neurodevelopment disorder that impairs a child's ability to communicate and interact with others. It also includes restrictive, repetitive behaviors, interests, and activities. These issues cause significant impairment in social, occupational, and other areas of functioning. Children with autism spectrum disorder usually show some signs of delayed development within the first year. For example, doesn't respond with a smile or happy expression by 6 months, doesn't mimic sounds or facial expressions by 9 months, doesn't babble or coo by 12 months, doesn't gesture, such as a point or wave, by 14 months, and loses previously acquired language or social skills at any age. If you suspect that your child may have ASD, discuss your concerns with your doctor. There are treatments that can help your child to develop to his or her potential. This message has been brought to you by the Public Hospitals Authority. Did you know, although children of any age can be infected with COVID-19, children under the age of 10 are less likely than adults to get seriously ill, although it still can happen. Whether or not they get sick, children who are infected can spread the virus to other people. This can be hazardous, especially for people who are 65 years of age or older, or who have other health problems. In adults, common symptoms of coronavirus include fever and cough. In more severe cases, people can develop pneumonia and have trouble breathing. Children with COVID-19 can have these symptoms too, but are less likely to get very sick. Some children do not have any symptoms at all. In children who do get COVID-19, babies seem to be at higher risk for more serious breathing symptoms. Serious symptoms are also more common in people, including children, who have certain health problems. These include heart disease, diabetes, lung disease, severe obesity, or cancer. This message has been brought to you by the Public Hospitals Authority.
We are 1540 AM, Power 104.5 FM, the national voice of the Bahamas. The time is now 10:38 in the morning, and it's time for us to return to Junkanoo Talks. And this morning you've got Darren Farrington, you got Arlene Nash Ferguson, got Cossie Fernander, Darren Bastian is there, Emmanuel Francis, and of course, a man that knows me very well, Mr. Doyle Burrows. Welcome back, guys.
Yes.
And gal.
Thank you.
From the Junkanoo Library, filed under P for paper. Legend has it that in the days of slavery, when the Junkanoo celebrations began, the slaves tried to costume themselves by sticking anything onto their clothing that they could find around them, including paper and feathers. Could it be that paper became so significant because by law, slaves were not allowed to learn to read or write? Over the centuries, we have carried the sticking of paper to a fine art, and nowhere else in the world is this art form to be found. So be proud of your heritage, and whenever your new Junkanoo season starts, make sure that you do not shortcut. You're not shortcutting paper right out of Junkanoo. Keep that paper. Adhere to the rules of the competition, and more importantly, carry a proud tradition that is hundreds of years old. Fringing and pasting, unique components of our Junkanoo, and we are so proud of it.
Welcome back. You're tuning into Junkanoo 242. Oh, we right in the midst of the ingredients of what is a Junkanoo costume, and we're identifying those core components. And just to recap some of the things that we have on the list, first thing is that, of course, of today, a Junkanoo costume is made of predominantly cardboard. 2, it has to be carried. All right. The third thing that we were on is it should be fringed. Now, a lot of people, when we start to talk about fringing and everything about here, is that I think we should lay right here on, and actually get into this a little deeper. Someone argue that back in the day they used what they had, and others would argue that there are some things that make us unique and sets us apart. And the argument is being made that one item is crepe paper. All right. When it comes to Junkanoo costumes, the use of crepe paper and what we do with the crepe paper is one of the core components of a Junkanoo costume. Cossie, tell me, would that be a fair statement to say?
I would think so. you know, when you say crepe paper, I don't know what they do with crepe paper today because they don't use crepe paper the fringe. To me, crepe paper is used more today to craft.
Okay, and see, but and see that's what we want to actually address, because right now we're seeing the straying away from a lot of what made us unique, what made our costumes unique. And so what we're trying to define is that uniqueness is that one of the uniqueness and the core components, the crepe paper and the fringing of the crepe paper.
Okay. Like I said, in my day, we would spend time cutting paper, and later on you would come back and fringe. But I guess basically we probably the fault of what's going on now, because we didn't probably teach a lot of people how to paste. But you would have to want to learn how to paste. Today's Junkanoo, I call them the microwave Junkanoo, because they want to be in the show for 2 minutes and basically get your costume out. But you have to spend some time at the craft if you want to be good. That is.
Okay. Manny, would you say one? Arlene, we can't hear you. Your mic is muted.
I just wanted to throw something in here for consideration by our guests. When we look at the evolution of the costuming, we were using newspaper, then we were using tissue paper. We were using really what was available. Today we are using crepe paper. I guess my question is, does it have to be crepe paper to be as a component for our costumes, or should we just say paper? That's my question, because, you know, as time moves on, what is available, but the consistency is that it's paper. Now, it's either newspaper or tissue paper or crepe paper, but it's paper. And so I'm wondering if we should put the crepe paper in there or just leave it as paper. What y'all think?
That depends on, well, paper could be a little more generic, because it could be historical, because it could include this evolutionary process where you're using one form of paper, and then where you evolved, you started out with your newspaper, brown paper in some instances, now you have evolved tissue paper, then you have evolved to gray paper. So I think just saying paper, yes, that may be appropriate in a broader general sense.
Okay, because if I decide to do my costume out of newspaper and I meet all of the other requirements, it's a Junkanoo costume. You see what I'm saying?
It is. Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah.
But that's the way it always was, you know. But we, you know, to get back on to the beginning with what Cossie says, we using paper now, but it isn't cut paper off. Like how we used to say, like a lot of people would say, young people say, what you mean by when you say they used to cut paper? As simple as that sounds to us, you have to explain to the person today what is cut paper. How do you cut paper? Because some of them who involved with Junkanoo don't even know what cut paper is, or how you snip the paper. You know, it causing them time. It probably started with the scissors. Then we went to a shed. Then we went to barber machine. Then Paul Knowles had the cutting machine. Right. A lot of young people who in their teens don't even know what that is. They never seen that. And a lot of them now get still paper now. They might use it as a craft. All they do is they don't cut it. All they do is take it and put a little bit of glue and stick it down. They cut the pattern out and stick it down. It's still paper, but it's not the fringe paper. I don't know if you notice in the back of me. That's a Junkanoo piece, and it's what we call a fringe Junkanoo piece. And it wasn't that long ago. You know, that was on a costume on a lead piece in 2019. on one with Iggy Bum design.
Mhm.
He had myself and maybe a 4 or 5 Junkanoo old people. I don't call them young, older folks. But I just put that to show the whole thing was
Fringe.
actually pasted or fringe and cut paper.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. When you say cut paper, you are talking about what we call strip for strip. It has no fringe, but it's just put on in layers.
No, that one is actually like a strip for strip. That's more old-fashioned, not old-fashioned, but midstream. Like the strip for strip is some of them you couldn't even see where it was cut. You could see it was more different. With a Wilfred Fraser. His own was, what does they call that? Painting.
Crafting.
Huh?
Crafting.
No, that wasn't craft, Wilfred own wasn't craft. They just nipped the paper. Paper.
The fringe, the fringing was shorter.
Yeah, Cossie had Cossie would have had like a 1/4-inch cut on his paper, the snips. Fraser might have had must be a 1/16 of an inch.
Yes.
So let's get the definitions right to make sure we all on the same page. So now, when we are talking about crafting, we are talking about cutting out shapes and sticking them in, right?
Yeah, that's a form of craft. Yeah.
Okay.
But see, a lot of the people before, what they would have done was they would just like use the back of the paper to craft, even if they strip for strip. It wasn't much clipping in the paper, but they just put the strips on it, and it was a sort of fringe, but it didn't have much. The thickness of the paper wasn't that much, but a basic craft is you take a flat piece of paper and stick it on something. That's craft.
Gotcha.
That's what we used to call craft.
Okay.
So we ain't accepting that.
But
we're not putting that in our definition.
Aline, you all have passed that stage. You've passed that stage now. When you go in the store and you buy a black piece of material, or white piece of material, and you get it in different qualities. There, even with the glitter, you could get a fine glitter paper and you put in the back. You use felt. Felt seems to be a big thing in some of the groups.
Yeah.
And from a distance you can't tell what it is.
Yeah.
See, like I said last week, that seems as though what those who are responsible for Junkanoo now accepts or tolerates. Older people like us. To us, not us. To me, I always said you either go along or you get out.
No, but I see where you're going with it as to where we have trended. But one would argue they trended that way because there was no definition. Nobody. There was no wide definition as to say here is a unique. Here's what makes our Junkanoo costume unique, and so they started using everything.
Yeah, but we always use everything, but the basic thing was in the first, say, in the 60s, 50s, not necessarily the 50s, but the 60s and the 70s, or even to the 80s. It was defined. Junkanoo costume was defined by fringe.
So we putting fringe on our list. Your costume must be fringe.
We didn't have access to all of these decorations and what you call them.
You were lucky.
We didn't have
tricks.
That.
Tricks.
Yeah. To us, tricks one time ago was a bead. But if you see some costumes now, an artist takes all of his time and energy to portray something with all of his nice fine lines and different colors. And when the participants come and they say they decorate. You don't see what color all those nice, pretty colors that fella had behind. They put what we call Rick Rack all over the costume. You know, whereas the artist drew something that has a sharp point, the fella will put a big bead.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't even realize anymore that it has a point. It's like a woman putting on makeup, you know. Do you put on a shadow to enhance? I assume you put on some of these things to enhance your look. And I tell you the same thing in Junkanoo, you don't just put it to put it. If it isn't going to enhance the product, you shouldn't put it on it.
Yeah.
You know? And we use a lot of in today's Junkanoo, we use a lot of the what we call decorations to cover up shabby work.
Yes, we don't enhance, we hide. We
call it shabby work. You know, I tell the fella, if you're building a house, if you start out of square, out of plump, it ain't no way you can straighten it up. Then you get to the second floor.
Yeah.
you know, the fellas say, I said, but you know, you could have done that this way. The fellas say, yeah, but I can decorate.
Wow. You know, interesting thing, right? I'm going back to from the library, right? And I'm going back to the why we do, because to me that's one of the most important things. One of the questions in the legend has it, according to the library, that the slaves used paper because at that time they were not allowed to have paper to read or learn how to read or write.
It's a theory.
It's a theory. So let's explore that theory, right? So using paper then could have been a form of resistance or rebellion, so to speak, right?
Right.
So if that theory holds true, and we've been using paper to rebel for so many centuries, that's a part of our reason for being, that's a part of our story, that's a part of the excellence and the genius of what we do and why we create in the manner in which we create, right? So for me, the more we have a firmer understanding of that theory or accept that theory, then how we define what we create is easier to explain.
Yes.
But if we totally dispel that theory, then whatever you get, buck up goes. And I think we are at a point in Junkanoo, as our guest has so cleverly articulated, we are at a point in Junkanoo where, man, whatever goes, goes. If we want to bring today's waterproof Junkanoo. Tomorrow, if it's invisible paper junk, I don't know, whatever, plastic junk, I don't know, whatever, right? Then we accept that and we lose our way. But there has to be some landmarks for me where we just we shouldn't stray too far from. But I can just leave it right there.
Aaron,
I agree.
You as the people, you as the organizers or the leaders of the different organizations, who make up like I said last week, who make up the JLS? Who make up the governing body of Junkanoo? You are the people who participate. You are the people who make the rules. Now you have to make a definition, not us looking at it 50 years ago or 60 years ago. You got to say now what you want to do. And you got to remember now, when you create these rules, you can't say, well, boy, we used to do it this way, or boy, we used to do it that way. Yeah. These are the rules, that you agree on, and don't come back at the end and say, boy, this one cheat, or that one cheat, because Junkanoo groups like to say that.
True, very true.
That was a word I never had vocabulary, but cheat. I say, a dishonest fella, if you put him there, you know what he can do. You ain't gonna put a teeth to watch your money. Your money.
No.
It goes back to the same thing, you know. An honest person can be honest, a dishonest person can be dishonest. But you as the people who are in charge, you got to decide what you want, and you got to stick by it. Like I said, in the 50s when I started, I used the newspaper. Mind you, it isn't available. It wasn't that much newspaper because your family might buy a newspaper once a week. A newspaper come out 5 times a week now, or 4 times a week. And it wasn't that accessible then, but you saved it up that you got enough. And it wasn't that much. Because I remember fringing like you said, fringing in my mommy in the little house in the back of the yard with the newspaper. But we saved the newspaper all through the year. That's before tissue paper, then crepe paper, now synthetics.
All right.
Do something, Mr. Burrows, you make a point, right?
Hold on, Bastian.
I don't want to lose this point now.
Go ahead.
He makes a point. Listen, and this goes back to a show we had weeks ago about having the fun in Junkanoo. Right now, Junkanoo has become so expensive to participate in because we are not using materials that are easy for us to put our hands on. We have to purchase every single thing to create a costume that we think, quote unquote, is worthy of being on Bay Street. And that's why you have people like Ken Boyer Davis who would go to Bay Street and what he found on the street, and nobody exemplified the spirit of Junkanoo like him.
More than him.
That right there. Now let's go out break.
Folks, we're going to head to our next break. We're talking about what is a Junkanoo costume, part 2. We'll see you on the next side of the break.
When a person with tuberculosis or TB coughs,
boy, y'all open up a can of worms there.
even sings,
Costume.
or released, persons nearby who inhale these droplets can become infected.
He can like his costume on the way to Bay Street. Bring
On the way to Bay Street.
It lasts for more than 2 weeks. Tuberculosis is
But that money, right? But that money.
but can
Anybody
also
gonna say,
affect
boy, look at that boy is
the
Junkanoo?
spine. It can cause death if left untreated.
This message has been
He
brought to you
enjoyed
by
himself.
the Public Hospitals Authority. Here are 5 things
And
you
that is the original Junkanoo.
wash your hands
A
frequently.
recollection, because
Cover
remember
your
the
mouth
flower man,
and nose with a flexed
he covered
elbow.
himself in cloud, and he had the
When
banana
coughing
tree
or
man.
sneezing. If possible,
That's right.
keep a distance
Then you
of
had
6
this man
feet
who-
between yourself and
brought
someone who is coughing,
dog
sneezing,
dress.
or has a fever. Avoid touching your eyes,
Crazy.
nose, and mouth. If you have a fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical care. Phone ahead to inform the clinic when you will visit. This message has been brought to you by the Public Hospitals Authority in conjunction with the Ministry of Health, the World Health Organization, the Pan American Health Organization, International Organization for Migration, the UN Migration Agency, and the Disease Surveillance Unit.
We are 1540 AM Power 104.5 FM, the national voice of the Bahamas. One and only Hope Shelley Ann, sitting in for the barefoot one who is over in Dubai. 11 o'clock in the morning is the time, and we are in the midst of Junkanoo 242. Got Doyle Burrows with us today. Got Cossie Fernander, Emmanuel Francis, of course, Darren Farrington. Got Eileen Cash Ferguson, and none other than Mr. Darren Bastian. Darren, come off that phone. Come off that phone.
Listen here. Before
I
I
taking
forget,
care of business trying to get the bait.
before I forget, you know, I got to make a suggestion this morning for those who are in authority with the leadership of the Junkanoo in the Bahamas today. You know, we talk about very straight or what we have. The way for us to get the craft of Junkanoo going again is to put some incentives in Junkanoo where we have a section for fringe costumes. How a competition for fringe costumes, completely fringe costumes. Either is off the shoulder category or lead category,
and you put some big funds up for the winners. You put some big funds
let me
up.
tell you what my problem is with that. My problem with that is that we are taking the history and heritage of Junkanoo and condensing it into one little category. That is what the whole parade should be. And I think what Darren Farrington was saying was, yes, we all agree that these young people are doing their own thing now, but in my generation has to accept a part of that responsibility because we did not teach. We did not say, this is what a Junkanoo costume is. This is how you must do it. We so busy trying to win that anything that will help us to win, even if it went against our tradition, we decided we're going with that because we got to win. And so I think what we are trying to do now is, this is what I think. I think we are trying to, for the moment, put aside the reality of what the costumes look like now and just dream of what the costume should be in keeping with a Junkanoo tradition, and then we start to take steps as to how we get back to where we should be, starting with things like what Manny mentioned, like Junior Junkanoo. We can come up with a lot of strategies, but I think what I want to see is what ideally a Junkanoo costume should be. And I don't want get away from the fringe, but I don't want to forget to say this. I would add to the list the marking out. Other costumes, that to me, the marking out is the art that we wear on our costumes. To me, is a very, very important component of a Junkanoo costume. Please put that on the list, and we could talk about that as well.
Let's discuss this marking out, though. You don't, but
Darren, I don't want to get away from the fringe and from the fringing. Part. Yeah, because what I want to say also, Dr. Nicolette Bethel tells us that African regalia traditionally is always layered. You don't just put it on. You put on your ceremonial garb in layers. And so to me, the fringing and the pasting is very, very critical to our costume. So I don't want to get away from that discussion until we have exhausted that. You know, how we want this paper. We've agreed that it could be any kind of paper. How do we want this paper applied to our costumes? Will we permit fringe of any strip or what?
To write your ship a bit.
Go ahead, Doyle.
For her to write the ship a bit. That's the suggestion, so we could in essence, is we could trick them, you could bribe them, you could promise them some cash funds, say, hey, this parade, we can have a section, a costume, and it must be fringed. And you take the photos and you get all your parameters and all your rules. And like I say, you put some incentives in, some big incentives to make them want to do costumes.
Okay, so let's meet in the middle then. Let's meet in the middle. Suppose you lose it from just being one prize in one category. Suppose you lose it and you say that the group that is out there with the most fringe, you got $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 additionally for them, whether they win by the modern standards or not. Now, I could see that happening. To me, that's us trying to rein this thing in and getting back. Which you
isn't that in the rules now where the monthly X amount of percentage of their costumes French? How is that different from what's in the rules?
Darren, that
is more enforcement.
But see, you set those parameters, but we set the rules, but don't look like we get like the politician. You know, we don't
say one thing and do another.
We say one thing, then we on the outside, and then we get the inside. It seems as though before we get into dogwood, we done changed the rules. See,
Yes.
and it goes back to honesty, you know. A lot of people don't know what that word means. That the same thing we talked about Junkanoo and the parameters of Junkanoo. You know, it's the same thing with human nature. It goes back to people that we pick to judge, and as the fella say, "Oh, if you're a valley boy, we can't have you on it." You know why? Because he figured you could be dishonest and you could be a cheat. And you know, it seems as though today, you know, your name don't mean anything. You know, and they figure everybody can cheat. You know, it's there. Everybody got a price. You know, we could buy you. You know, I always tell people, I say, before I cheat, I would be involved.
Amen. Me too. Amen.
And my will to win ain't great enough that I can cheat, especially cheat for you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But there ain't many of us left.
Yes, some of us value integrity over everything else.
There
Absolutely.
ain't many of us left.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So let's get back to our list. So, and I don't know if we could be able to finish this whole point about the fringe, but I would say your costume should be fringe. Now we could decide the length of the fringe. We could decide if we accepting strip for strip or whatever. I don't know what you all feel about that.
But strip for strip is a form of fringing. That's also a form of fringing.
Okay.
It's just that strip for strip it's very fine. Like I say, it's almost, you just barely touch the paper.
Cossie, you were saying something also?
Huh?
To me, I guess it could be, to me, as long as it's cut paper. I don't necessarily like the strip for strip because, like Boris said, that's just barely touching the paper.
Yeah.
And if you're using a barber razor, that's barely touching the paper. So
you want real fringe?
I want real fringe because you get the real texture of the paper, of the colors, with the fringe. You get a watered down version, strip for strip.
Yeah. You
Just
could
like
live with the fringe. You could live with the fringe created by the barber razor.
Not really.
It's a trimmer already.
He's saying
I guess I mean some of it could pass, but
it's too short.
The majority of it.
Let me tell you the problem you'll face, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem you'll face is this. And I yield to the senior people in this discussion as well, right? When there was a process of getting into Junkanoo, there was a process of getting into Junkanoo. For me, I started picking up paper off the shop floor. Then they start sweeping the shop floor. Then they gotta learn how to cut. Then they gotta learn how to paste. Then when you learn how to paste, you're starting on the back, right? You start on the back of the costume. Then if you're lucky, you can learn how to paste tennis, you can learn how to paste pants, you can learn how to paste shoes, right? And then if you had interest, you learn how to construct you learn how to construct your costume, right? So there was a process, right? You get into a group a certain way. Most people come into the bell line. Some people did other things, right, to get to where you really want, what you really want to be doing in Junkanoo. So there was a process. There was a clear process, right? Now, because we don't have such a defined process and clear guidelines, a lot of the things that you would learn in your infancy in Junkanoo, we ain't doing that no more, right? Yeah. So people don't know how to do certain things, right? So if we say now, we only want people to fringe, then the issue is gonna be 80% of people on Bay Street can't go.
Bye.
That's all. Bye.
No. You cannot say that.
No, either they will learn, they will adjust. See, I think we're scared to. I think I think we're scared to call a spade a
Aaron,
spade.
you know, a lot of times we let the tail wag the dog, you know. These young people, and I mean, I just love them. I love their spirit. I think they need to be guided. But even when Doyle talks about the JCNP, I don't think necessarily that because you are in the competition, I know the parade belongs to us because we create it. But there's a side there. We are so busy trying to win. See, it's a competition now. We are so busy trying to win. A lot of times we ignore the big picture. And that's why I feel there should be an advisory body made up of a cross-section of people who are able to at least advise as to the direction, even if that advice is not taken. You have to keep sight of the big picture, what Junkanoo was, what it is, and try to marry the two. That's my 5 cents.
So in essence, you're saying to operate operate like a corporation does, with a board of advisors.
Yeah, exactly. And I just let me just throw in here, there are so many rich comments in the chat. I thank you all for participating. I'm not sure we will be able to get to all of them, but I don't want to fix my mouth to say a third session. But anyhow, I just want everybody in the chat to know that we are aware of your comments. We may not necessarily be able to get to all today. Let's leave it at that.
But you know, Arlene, that's why I say we can start with maybe off the shoulder, or pick a section that you want to have for friends to put the money. You can encourage some. You can get some people involved if it's only for the money. But you can get what you want.
I say do the whole group.
No. See, you ain't gonna get the whole group. I'm realistic. I don't know if you can get the whole group.
I think we're looking at this just a little through the wrong perspective. One of the reasons why we're having this discussion is first to define what is a Junkanoo costume, because the definition of a Junkanoo costume helps us to preserve and also to nurture and to promote what is unique to our Junkanoo. One of the things that's unique to our Junkanoo festival. All right? And once we have that uniqueness in a costume defined, we can tell people, okay, one of the core components is what we fringed paper that is applied to the costume through the art of pasting, right? Let's say we use that definition. That is the definition. From that definition, that is the guidelines as to how we tailor what we want to do. I am of the opinion that we don't have to incentivize people to do what is right. You set the parameters to do what is right.
You stay right there.
Hold on. Let me continue. Let me continue my point just for a second. When the NFL wanted, after doing their studies, they realized that concussions was caused by direct helmet-to-helmet contact. They did not incentivize the team. They put in rules and parameters that guided what happened next. I feel as though
that's a faulty analogy. Analogy because concussions will affect you personally and your health.
Yes,
that is completely different. You will
let me continue for a second.
You realize it's for your safety, but that ain't happen.
If we have the rules, if we have the definition and we have the parameters in place that guide us where we want to go, there's no need for incentive as to say, here's what we need to do. If we say to us that costumes need to be fringed and paced, like Devin said in the comments, we need to enforce the rules. Once we enforce the rules, we will see a change in behavior.
That ain't necessarily so. That's the way it should be. Like every game, anything you play, there are rules. You know, you play cards, you play sports, they have rules. But there again, even in sports, say in track and field or basketball, we have the fella cheat or try to beat the rules, just call it cheating. You can have cheaters in everything you do.
Yes, but you don't incentivize the people who are doing right by saying, if you don't take dope, we're gonna pay you more. You have rules to
Yeah.
weed out the people
Here's
that
the
don't.
problem.
But Darren,
Here's the
I
problem
mean,
now. Sorry, go ahead, Doyle.
to them. What? Like I said, to get your ship back on, and we can find some people who will sponsor these things. You know, we will find some people to sponsor. And I say, like Alan said, the whole group. No, you could have a group, but it don't have to be a group of 300 or 400. You know, you have a section, and you give them something. It's a contest, and this contest can pay well. Kentucky get a hot contest now. The number of people is hot contest, and you get prizes.
Yeah.
But there's certain things that they want to see. Everybody can be involved. Everybody's not going to be interested, but the few that could be interested, you're rewarding them. Then you can see, and maybe down the road, the ship will get a little
right itself.
Yeah, they'll write it. But but that's if that's what you want.
Yeah.
See, because like we said, we and he said that we didn't train. That ain't quite so. You know, when you tell people today, well, this way we do it, you can't tell them that every day because they get annoyed. Yes, that's the way y'all do it. But like you say, you got to put the rules and you got to explain it. Like last week we said, what was the difference between Carnival and Junkanoo? I said, 50 years ago, I could have said, what's the difference? Not today. When we went to Trinidad, not going out the same book, but when we went to Trinidad, I could have seen the difference at that time between Junkanoo and Carnival. Because we did all the structure.
That was in 71, Edward.
Yeah, we did the structure like they did. But they find the material to put on the top.
Right.
We had the fringe, the design of the material. Whereas they could just find the material. We could put the material on, but then we had the fringe, the paper in to make it look like the material.
Yeah, there's one pasted.
Today that's when we had to paste it. Today that don't exist. Carnival and what we call Junkanoo now. All them you can't distinguish the difference no more. But you cannot distinguish the difference in the presentation of it.
I had a question last week, right? And I can pose this question again.
Go ahead.
If we take most of the costumes that we use in our Junkanoo shows and on Bay Street and we put it behind a Carnival truck, is that gonna look more like Carnival and less like Junkanoo? And if we take the same costumes and put it behind Junkanoo music, is it gonna look less like Junkanoo and more like Carnival? What is it gonna be?
It can look like
Carnival.
It look like Carnival.
You know why it looks just like Carnival? Because the basis of how we design our costumes in this dispensation of Junkanoo is purely for feathers. It isn't to display the craftsman. It isn't to display the art of fringing.
Yes.
See, that is the core difference. They say it's durability. You know, paper.
Durability.
They say the costumes. Like when you look at these show costumes, they're not no Junkanoo costumes. They
aren't.
Costume, and the material that they make them out, you can sweat with them, you get wet with them and all that. And you could wear it over and over. When you go into the fringing and you get wet, you in trouble. You sweat, you in trouble.
That's what we do.
Huh?
That's a part of what we do. Right now, right, Mr. Burrows? Watch this. When I really used to paste costumes, right? Yes, I use feathers, right? The Dirty Bird, for instance, that was 1999, I think it was, right? 98% of that costume was French. Use a lot of feathers with it, you know.
Yeah.
Now, if in this dispensation, if somebody had to do that costume, you can 98% of that costume could be feathers.
Would be feathers.
2% could be French.
It's ridiculous.
No French.
Right.
Don't trick
no French.
But that's what they want. That's what it appears to me that's what we want.
When you
It gotta be appear.
you keep on saying what we want, and I hear people say, well, when they came into the shack, the people were trained. And my point I stand on is this: there has been lack of defining what one makes us unique, what makes a Junkanoo costume unique, and what we have contributed to saying is a process or training really is just traditional means. And my point is this: you can learn to be a welder by being an apprentice from somebody, or you could have a formal structured way in terms of something that gives you definition and define as to why you do what you do. All right? A lot of the stuff in our apprenticeship, a lot of stuff was lost. A lot of stuff lacked. And one of the things that was lacking is definition.
We see well on our way with the definition. Read your list to this point, what we have so far as the ingredients for a true Junkanoo costume. Read your point to recap.
We have cardboard, made of cardboard. It has to be carried. It should be fringed crepe paper, and costumes are marked out.
We said fringe paper.
Yes. Fringe paper.
And costumes are marked out. Okay, those are the four that we have so far. What else?
Yeah, I made a comment in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying that the basic we needed cardboard, but there is no way that you could exclude the tie wire. In some instances, in the old days, we used to use hanger wire so that the cardboard can maintain its form. You can't just have the cardboard by itself.
Put wire.
The wire has to be.
Put wire.
Absolutely. And not only that, back in the, I won't say back in the day, but when we, I'm one thing. When we wanted a three-dimensional costuming done, for example, when we did the crawfish in 1968, and we had to make the crawfish heads, we didn't use cardboard. We actually built them with tie wire. So we used tie wire to form that 3-dimension, and we sewed cloth to that.
Brown cotton, right?
And then we also remember now, Chippy used to do a lot of 3-dimensional costuming as well, and he, as well as the flat ones, but he used chicken wire.
Mm-hmm.
Chicken wire is like a wire mesh that.
Mm-hmm.
And so cardboard is there.
Bad wire.
That's what it has. That's what. Let's just say, you could actually, we could have actually done some of these costumes out of cardboard, but let's just face it. There's no way you can have a cardboard antenna.
Add wire is an option, dear, to your list. Add wire is an option.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know,
we got it.
Speaking about
Darren.
Huh?
Cossie, go ahead.
I don't want to say something, but I ain't sure if the public can take that, bro.
Oh, Lord.
You better hold that. Cossie, go ahead.
Nothing rude, just controversial.
Okay. Back in the day, his name was Bookie. I don't know if that was his real name, but I watched him build a costume out of actually steel, a peacock out of steel.
Yeah,
wow.
And
yes.
With chicken wire.
Yes. Yeah.
Bookie was the carpenter. The Chippy.
Okay.
Boy, he was bad too.
Yeah, he's used to by far.
He got a fridge. That boy got a fridge.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Jesus.
We never could find his real name to be able to honor him at Independence. You know, I think that was the gentleman that we were never able to contact family members or get the whole story to be able to honor him, if I remember correctly.
Chippy would have been the only one who probably could have provided you with that name.
Could have helped us. Yeah. But I want to say, Owen has made a comment. I was going to make a similar comment. He said the rules need to be made specific. I think the rules are very specific, but I think the problem is the interpretation, the execution of the rules, because the JCNP writes the rules and they decide what they want to happen, but then they have to turn the parade over because we all in it. they turn the parade over to people to execute. So you have judges who make decisions that are not in keeping with the rules. If the rules say the costumes must be completely fringe, how could you be rewarding a group that has a very obvious inclusion of styrofoam in their presentation? I'm actually no going.
Obvious to whom?
Yes, you are.
Huh?
Obvious to whom?
Obvious? How you mean you couldn't miss them?
Obvious to whom?
Okay,
That's
all
a
right.
legitimate question.
So
Obvious
how do
to
you
whom,
solve?
Marlene?
How do you solve that problem then?
So now you admitting that. All right. How do you solve the problem? It goes right back to the same people who are judging the parade, understanding what it is that they are judging.
Right. That's my
Plain and
point.
simple, you know.
That's my
It's
point.
as simple as that. If and I still hold to the point that we are too afraid to make the decision to keep Junkanoo on the track as supposed to be going on. Plain and simple.
Well,
You
we ain't
can't-
scared
you
because that's
can't-
why we
you
here
can't
this
go to
morning.
carnival with your crepe paper and shares. So don't come to Junkanoo only with your feathers to go.
Amen. Amen. Slackness. Slackness. And so, gentlemen, we have 3 minutes to go for this segment 2, and we look forward to having you next Saturday morning for segment 3, because now we have to begin to discuss, once we identify what it is we want to
This
achieve.
fellas can get tired of you, know, out here.
Let him rock and roll with me. I don't care. I don't care. It's all for a worthy cause. Next week, we will wrap up this particular conversation, get our list together, and then we'll start talking about strategies as to how, this is Doyle's point. Basically, what Doyle is saying is that we close the door at the gate after the horse get out. But we are going to be discussing strategies as to how we can get to where we would wish Junkanoo to be costume-wise. And so I thank you all so much for allowing me to be so bold, and let you know you will be back next week. 3 times is the law, Mommy would say. And so our final comments, our closing comments as we wrap up. Doc, we begin with you. Please get the ball rolling. We got 1 minute, she tells me.
Okay, but again, I want to just thank you, Junkanoo 242 and the principals involved and the producers, and thank you, Mr. Farrington, for your input and your insight, even though you may be the youngest among us. And we certainly are so privileged to have to do this, and it'll be a delight to continue again next week. And I thank all those who listen and who participate and comment. And perhaps maybe we can read some of these comments.
Yes, next week.
Issued, then maybe we can
And respond next week. Yes. Thank you, Manny.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cossie.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, with these legends talking about a whole lot of things. I really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to being on again.
Thank you so much. And Doyle Burrows, you have the final word.
Be careful what you wish for.
Doyle, I can leave you with this, right? You say, we close the gate after the horse come out, right?
That's what I say, yeah.
So make sure we now have a horse on the track and not a donkey.
And ladies and gentlemen, on that profound comment, we thank you all so much for being in the E-Shack with us this morning. You know, we look forward to having you all here, and we thoroughly enjoy this. What a privilege it is. And so until next week, when we will, I wouldn't even say conclude, next week when we will have part 3 of this beautiful discussion, please remember that in the meantime, this is Junkanoo 242. It's all about you wherever you are in the 242 and the world. And until next week, make sure now that we all let everything that we do show beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are all
proud
to be the See you next week.